Guys, welcome back to another week of Mortgage Matters in Minutes. Again, I'm your host, Brent Rasmussen, owner of Mortgage Specialists. What are we talking about today? The word appraisal waiver. And the word appraisal waiver is changing the mortgage game. I've been in this industry over 25 years, and appraisal waivers used to be not as common. And we're seeing that happen more and more throughout time because as we use more technology in the mortgage industry, things are going to change. And this is a great one, I feel, that can be incorporated early and often in the mortgage process. So let's talk about what an appraisal waiver is, first of all. It's waiving of the appraisal, not needing one. And during the pandemic, this was a big change of verbiage that realtors and buyers and sellers all thought that if they chose not to have an appraisal, meaning appraiser going into the property to evaluate it, was maybe unsafe for the appraiser going into a house during COVID and passing COVID, exchanging COVID from sellers that are in the property and people not wanting to be close to people. But in essence, back then there wasn't a choice to be able to use an appraisal waiver or not. Appraisal waivers have been around for 20, 25, 30 years. They just have become more common. And why are they more common? Because again, we have more data about properties throughout the country. Think about it. 20 years ago, we didn't have Google Maps and Apple Maps to get us from location to location. You know, we printed off things on a website or took an atlas with us or something of that nature, which has only been 25, 30 years ago. Nowadays, we can get anywhere we want access with our phone, and we can also pull up properties from Google Maps, from all kinds of softwares, from NASA, and you name it. So also keeping track of data through the years has helped Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac understand what generally an area might be worth. Again, let's throw Zillow out of this because people use Zillow a lot to say my value is this, my value is that. Zillow is not an actual accurate website for the value of your home. But people think that is the case because it's a place that they can type in their address, look at other properties, and get a valuation. That is just a number that's put out there, but there's no fact behind it. So an appraisal waiver is what it says. It's waiving of the appraisal throughout the process. Generally speaking, we're talking specifically about conventional loans, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So how does one get this appraisal waiver? They're not decided between lender to lender. We all as lenders go through the same software called Desktop Originator, Desktop Underwriter through Fannie Mae, or Loan Prospector, LPA, through Freddie Mac. And we take every consumer's loan and we submit their data through this software, and it will tell us whether we need an appraisal, what kind of an appraisal is also needed as well. And there's many different kinds of appraisals. People don't realize that because we don't always get into that with the consumers, but generally the appraisal is needed for the lender to make sure the value is what the value is, and we're not lending too much in relationship to the value of the property per the rules that exist. So appraisal waivers are great. And I can assure you and tell you that we're seeing more of these happening through this software than we've seen in the past, because as loans get originated and neighborhoods get tracked, values get to be populated through a large database. And they can say, if you live in this neighborhood or that neighborhood, we know the range of houses. And I tell clients, the more your neighborhood is the same looking as all the neighbors, like your home, the more easy I feel appraisal waiver to come back, because they know if many of the houses look and feel and are the same size, same type, ranch or two-story or whatever the case is, then they know, hey, we have a good supply of data in that neighborhood, because over the last 20 years, there's been thousands and thousands of mortgage loans originated. So they have data of all that information now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is collecting. So why is it so important to have this appraisal waiver? First, it saves the buyer money on the transaction. You know, appraisals can range anywhere from $400 to $1,000. Generally, they're $500 to $600. But at some point in time, yes, they can range to be very expensive if you're in a rural part or it's a busy time of the industry or time of year. Different reasons why costs. So the number one reason is buyers don't want the cost. But I can tell you, appraisal waivers now are huge for negotiating contracts, because a lot of people are worried about, if I bid too much on a house, Is it going to appraise or not? And that's what everyone worries about. They stress throughout the process. When's the appraisal coming back? Is it going to be evaluated at the number that we need to close? But if we can get this appraisal waiver, we don't have to stress and realize there's going to be issues in regards to that particular scenario. So, how does this work throughout a transaction? Basically, a lot of times people don't receive an appraisal waiver till after a purchase contract comes in. But I can share with you here at Mortgage Specialists, buyers will contact us before writing an offer. And if we know the address, we can take the information and plug it into the computer system to tell the buyers before they even submit an offer if we get an appraisal waiver or not. Again, there's basic factors that we have to see happen in order for an appraisal waiver to occur. Generally, we need to see a very high credit score. Generally, we want to see a neighborhood that has very consistent types of homes. 20% down on conventional is basically a requirement that's going to happen. So if you have somebody putting less than 20% down, but they still have great credit and they have a very common neighborhood, it's not going to go through the system. But if we know the basic variables, we can plug it in and see before you put an offer in, do we even need an appraisal? And that saves you cost. But the biggest thing it saves you when negotiating a contract is time, because now you're able to close a transaction much quicker because we don't have to go through the compliance of ordering an appraisal, getting an appraiser out to the property, having them do their work, submit it back, have an underwriter review it, go through compliance, and make it all happen. The appraisal piece generally should not take that long, but because of all the litigations, laws that exist on the books for lending, there's lots and lots of compliance that occurs in order for those appraisals to get done. And the appraiser doesn't have the final say. The underwriters do that are making the loans happen. So if we can cut all those extra pieces out in a transaction, the appraisal waiver is always a best option, I feel, for buyers, unless they want to know the value. And we've had some clients say, I don't want to pay more than this. I'd like to see the appraisal come back. And we've had situations where the buyer chose to get an appraisal because they had the option of buying it at a cheaper price if the appraisal came in lower. Does that happen very often? No. Is that confusing? Sure. But most of the time, more than 80% of the time, people choose to accept this appraisal waiver. And it's happening more and more all the time. I can share with you last year, we ran some numbers and it was more than 10% of our loans received appraisal waivers. Obviously, we help a lot of clients with great credit, with good down payments, but that alone doesn't always get you an appraisal waiver. I've seen people have perfect credit, large down payments of 60%, 40%, but it might be in a neighborhood where many property values are much different and the size of the houses are different and they're not all as similar. So they're not sure. Do you have a smaller home, larger home? Is it in good condition, not condition? So did you learn a little bit about appraisal waivers today? I hope you did. Appraisal waiver is meaning we get to waive an appraisal. It's nothing against appraisers. Appraisers are always going to be needed because there's going to be situations where we don't understand what's going on in the neighborhood. There's situations of new build properties that need, and generally most of the time, have an appraisal. So there are situations moving forward that I do think we're going to see more appraisal waivers happen in the future because the more data we can collect, the more knowledge we have, and the better chances are that the computer system is going to give us favorable information such as an appraisal waiver. Again, I'm Brent Rasmussen, owner of Mortgage Specialists. We'd love for you to hit subscribe here below to get information that's accurate but short and sweet to the point to make you the best informative buyer and borrower that there is in the market. You can phone call us at any time at 402-991-5153 or reach out on our website at mtg-specialist.com. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Mortgage Specialists. Driven, trusted, reliable.